The back door was swinging in the cold Indiana wind. It was just past midnight on Friday, November 17, 1978, in Speedway, Indiana, a quiet working-class town just west of Indianapolis. The neon Burger Chef sign on Crawfordsville Road buzzed faintly, but something was wrong. The lights were still on inside, the registers were open, the safe stood ajar, and 4 teenagers had vanished. Jayne Friedt, Mark Flemmonds, Danny Davis, Ruth Ellen Shelton. Their purses were still there, their coats were on the floor, an empty roll of adhesive tape lay beside the safe like a discarded prop. $581 was missing, but there was no blood, no broken glass, no overturned furniture, just silence. Police initially assumed it was a robbery gone sideways. Maybe the kids had taken the money and left to party. Speedway officers didn't photograph the scene. They didn't secure it as a homicide site. By morning, the restaurant reopened for business. Grease popped in the fryers. Customers ordered burgers. Life moved on. 2 days later, hikers walking through a wooded area in rural Johnson County, roughly 20 miles south of Speedway, made a discovery that would freeze this community in time. 4 bodies, scattered among the trees. Shot, stabbed, beaten. This wasn't a robbery. This was an execution. Nearly 5 decades later, the Burger Chef murders remain one of Indiana's most haunting unsolved cases, a story of missed evidence, whispered drug ties, mysterious vans, and suspects who vanished or died before answers could be found. And somewhere in that dark stretch of Indiana woods, someone knows exactly what happened that night.
Jayne Carol Friedt was 20 years old, born May 2, 1958 in Terre Haute, Indiana. She was the assistant manager at the Burger Chef on Crawfordsville Road in Speedway. Friends described her as confident, sometimes intense, but ambitious. She had plans, maybe college, maybe management. She carried herself like someone older than her years. Mark Sylvester Flemmonds had just turned 16 the previous New Year's Eve. Born December 31, 1961, he wasn't even scheduled to work that Friday. He picked up the shift for a coworker going on a date. That decision would cost him his life. Friends called him warm, protective. He had a good heart, one friend later said. He looked out for people. Daniel Roy Davis, also 16, dreamed of joining the Air Force. Born September 6, 1962, he loved aviation and photography. His father remembered him building a dark room at home, taking photos of planes cutting across Indiana skies. Ruth Ellen Shelton, 17, born December 19, 1960, was academically driven. A student at Northwest High School in Indianapolis, she planned to study computer science, an ambitious goal in 1978. Her principal described her as bright and businesslike. That Friday night shift was ordinary. The dinner rush had passed. Grease traps needed cleaning. Registers had to be counted. Closing procedures were routine. 4 young employees, laughing, tired, thinking about weekend plans. None of them knew that somewhere outside, in the dimly lit parking lot, someone might have already been watching.
Around midnight, a friend of Mark's stopped by after leaving the Galaxy Dance Club nearby. The lot seemed strangely empty, no movement inside. Minutes later, another employee, 17-year-old Brian Kring, arrived around 12:15 a.m. to hang out. The back door was open. That wasn't normal. He stepped inside. The air felt still. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Cash drawers hung open. Ruth Ellen's coat lay on the floor. The safe was unlocked. An empty roll of tape sat beside it. Brian called his manager, who told him to notify Speedway police. Officers arrived, but didn't see signs of forced entry or violence. No blood, no struggle. They assumed the 4 employees had staged a small robbery and taken off in Jayne's Chevrolet Vega. It sounded plausible. Teenagers, cash missing, late night. Officers cleared the scene. No fingerprint dusting, no crime scene tape, no photographs. Employees returned in the morning to open the restaurant. Fryers hissed. Customers walked across what could have been critical evidence. Later, Officer Buddy Ellwanger would admit, "We screwed it up from the beginning." By Saturday morning, Jayne's Chevrolet Vega was found unlocked near the Speedway Police Department itself. almost brazenly parked. Now the story didn't make sense, and within 24 hours, the worst fears would be confirmed. Sunday morning, November 19th. In a wooded area near County Line Road in Johnson County, about 20 miles from Speedway, hikers noticed something disturbing among the trees. Bodies. 4 of them. Danny Davis and Ruth Ellen Shelton had been shot with a .38 caliber firearm. The weapon was never recovered. Jayne Friedt had been stabbed twice in the chest. The handle of the knife broke off during the attack and has never been found. Her car key was still in her pocket. Mark Flemmonds was discovered at the base of a tree roughly 100 yards away from the others. His face bore blunt force trauma. His nose was broken. He ultimately died choking on his own blood. Investigators believe Jayne and Mark may have tried to run. Their bodies were found farther from Danny and Ruth Ellen, suggesting a desperate attempt to escape through darkness and underbrush. Imagine that moment. Cold November air, leaves crunching underfoot, gunshots echoing through trees. 4 teenagers far from home. The woods held their final screams. And whoever drove away that night left behind no clear trail, no murder weapon, no eyewitness who could definitively identify the killers. Just questions.
Witnesses reported seeing a van outside the Burger Chef that night. Some described it as orange. Others said yellow, possibly rust-colored with white wheels. 2 men inside. One clean-shaven with light hair, the other bearded with darker hair. Composite sketches were created. The clean-shaven man, the bearded man. Attention turned to a group of local armed robbers known for targeting fast food restaurants in Speedway and Indianapolis. Their pattern was chillingly similar. Rob the store, steal an employee's car, abandon it later. 2 members, Greg Steinke and S.W. Wilkins, reportedly resembled the sketches. They had lived near the wooded area where the bodies were found. Both later served prison time for armed robbery. But there was a problem. None of their previous robberies involved murder. Why escalate to execution? One theory, someone inside recognized one of the robbers. Mark wasn't scheduled that night. Did his unexpected presence trigger panic? Or was it Jayne? She had previously worked in Avon, Indianapolis, where Wilkins had ties. Then there were whispers of drugs. Jayne's brother James had a history in the local drug scene. Some speculated deaths, retaliation, a warning gone wrong. The deeper investigators looked, the murkier the picture became. Because another name kept resurfacing. Brett Kimberlin.
Just months before the murders, Speedway had been rocked by violence. On July 29, 1978, 65-year-old Julia Cyphers was shot to death outside her home. Then, in early September, a string of bombings struck the town. Brett Kimberlin was later convicted in connection with the bombings. Years later, a prisoner named Donald Forrester claimed he and associates went to Burger Chef to collect a $15,000 cocaine debt from Jayne Friedt. He said things spiraled when Mark intervened. He admitted to bringing a .38 and a knife. He knew details, including the broken knife handle. Shell casings were found in his septic tank. But his story shifted. Some elements didn't match forensic evidence. Investigators admitted they may have fed him information during questioning. Forrester later recanted. Another man, Jeff Reed, was implicated by friends who claimed he confessed. Reed allegedly said he intended only to intimidate until panic led to murder. He reportedly resembled the bearded composite. Yet Reed was never charged. He died in 2011. Tim Willoughby, another alleged accomplice, had possibly been killed months before the murders, his body never found. Every lead seemed to dissolve, every confession crumbled, and every suspect denied involvement.
The case passed through decades of investigators in Marion County and Johnson County. Evidence was limited. The original crime scene had been compromised. Physical evidence from 1978 was minimal by modern standards. Retired officer Stoney Vann once said, "I dream about it sometimes." Current lead investigator Bill Dalton has publicly stated he believes the case is solvable. Advances in forensic science, DNA retesting, and renewed witness interviews have kept the file open. But time is cruel. Witnesses die, memories fade, suspects vanish. Alan Pruitt, a man who claimed to see a suspicious van that night, died in 2022. Others connected to theories are gone. The wooded area where the bodies were found still stands quiet. Suburban development has crept closer. Traffic hums along nearby roads. But somewhere in old boxes, forgotten evidence lockers, or in the memory of someone who has stayed silent for nearly 50 years, the truth waits. And for the families of Jayne, Mark, Danny, and Ruth Ellen, time stopped on November 17th, 1978.
4 teenagers closed a restaurant on Crawfordsville Road in Speedway, Indiana. They never made it home. Was it a robbery that spiraled out of control? A drug debt collection turned execution? A desperate cover-up by men afraid of being recognized? Or something investigators never considered? The van with white wheels, the broken knife handle, the .38 caliber rounds, the car left near the police station. Each detail feels deliberate, calculated, and yet no one has ever stood trial for the murders of Jayne Friedt, Mark Flemmonds, Danny Davis, and Ruth Ellen Shelton. Somewhere, someone drove away from those woods on November 19, 1978, believing they had gotten away with it. Nearly half a century later, they have. But cases like this have a way of resurfacing. New technology, a deathbed confession, a witness who can't carry the weight anymore. Because the question still lingers over Speedway, Indiana, like a cold November wind. Who killed the Burger Chef 4, and how much longer can they stay hidden?